The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Box seat time again, welcome in, brought to you by our stable of sponsors off the back of another terrific week of harness racing. Addington Raceway last Friday night was quite sensational. Michael Guerin, as I say hi to you, we're into October now and well and truly on the countdown to the IRT New Zealand Cup.
Yeah, hi Greg, big hi to everybody watching around Australasia. Yes, the week or fortnight of big returns continues. Last week, of course, it was Akuta, Self-Assured and Don't Stop Dreaming. This week, Millwood Nike back on Thursday night at Addington. My favourite, Bolt for Brilliance back on Friday night, and Old Town Road back. And Greg, so far, the returnees have been very expensive for punters. The trainers have told us almost every week, be careful with these horses coming back. Most of them have been beat. It'll be a shock if that's the case when Millwood Nike returns on Thursday, but there are some warnings we'll get to in the show later on about Old Town Road and maybe a little question mark over the returning hero of trotting, Bolt for Brilliance.
And of course Millwood Nike will have a new driver for this campaign, well the start of it anyway, Mark Purdon being suspended on Friday night, so Olivia Thornley gets another shot with Millwood Nike. What's ahead for you on your show? A busy one it is. The Lamb and Hayward Canterbury Classic was last Friday night. We'll wrap that up with Republican Party's win. We'll build towards that IRT New Zealand Cup and update things there. Carter Dalgetty and his parents, Cran and Chrissy, continue a very good run last Friday night, including that Canterbury Classic win. Muscle Mountain showed great speed to win again. We have news on a trot slot race. We'll preview Addington for Thursday night, Alexandra Park for Friday, and of course you get a chance to enter our Grand Prix competition where 4 lucky people anywhere around New Zealand can come to the big race meeting at Addington on the 10th of December. But let's get straight into it by heading back to Addington Raceway. Here's the start of the Canterbury Classic. Republican Party to his inside, Krug and Republican Party stepping away nicely. Republican Party wide out. BD Joe stepped really quickly here. Bark takes the lead off him. But as we roll the tape on here, once Bark gets down to the markers and into the showgrounds bend, he puts in a couple of rough steps which enables, well unfortunately, BD Joe to roll into a gallop. There it was there. And once he did that, he would not settle for new driver Terry Schmiel and proceeded to go all the way back through the field. Settling in front then was Krug. His stablemate, Republican Party, came looking, and then Artie's Express, who had actually rolled into a gallop not long after the start, made her way to the lead. This is where they pretty much settled. To this point, Akuta had moved around and sat parked and looked here like he was going to win, but the horse that was second to him in the Derby back in December, Republican Party, came through on his inside. A big performance, McAndrew Aviator. We'll hear from the connections post-race because he's now in the Cup. We'll hear from Blair Orange, the winning driver, and those just placed in behind him. Well, that was a totally professional performance from him.
Yeah, it was, Greg. You know, it's his first season against the big rollers, so you know, you don't step in there and dominate anyway, but, you know, he got away really well and put himself in the right spot and dashed up good up the lane.
Now he's in the Cup. He deserves a spot. He won the Junior Free-For-All last year, as we know, so he's always been a really quality horse. You're not probably going to be sitting behind him, but he's going to be a threat, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll enjoy the 2 mile, and he's just such a professional wee racehorse. Just goes to sleep on you whenever you want him to, and yeah, he won't disgrace himself in there for sure.
Well, that's about as good as they go on racetrack return.
Yeah, I'm very impressed, Greg. He's still carrying a lot of condition, and you know, he went above expectations of what we thought he would tonight.
Right, he's gone terrific tonight. So what's the pathway now? Have you and Dad exactly mapped it out?
Not really, Greg. We'll see how he pulls up over the next day or two, but it was a tough enough run. So you know, if we can, we'll try to space his racing a little bit more.
So is that therefore unlikely Meth and more likely Ashburn?
I would say so.
You're in.
Yes, it was great, very exciting.
Yeah. Look, going to tonight, it wasn't D-Day for you, but you've always had a bit of confidence in this horse. I know you haven't had him that long, but he's got a great race tonight.
He has gone good. He's let himself down the last 2 starts. He pulled too hard last start and start before he galloped. So it was getting near D-Day, those 2 easier ones, trying to get into the Cup. So this was a big step up, but yeah, we've got there, luckily.
All right, so now you've got to work out a pathway because you are in the race. So where do you go from here?
Actually, I just had the conversation with the owners. I said, we'll talk tomorrow. Now that you're in it, your pathway does probably change a little bit. You don't have to, not so much pressure on, is there? So yeah, that'll be a discussion for tomorrow.
How big is this for Boyd Racing, for everyone who supports your stable and everyone who helps out around the stable? This is going to be huge to have a runner in the Cup, isn't it?
Oh, it's great, and they made it a real family affair for everyone. Like, Sam's here, and he loves the horse and everything like that. And Megan and the syndicate, they've actually, it's not just training it, they've actually, yeah, it's a real family affair. So it's nice, yeah. And
it'll be a nice old build-up, won't it, for you? Yeah,
right.
You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, and a horse that tries hard and competitive, and hopefully we get the manners right on the day.
Stepped beautifully, which I was really happy with. Did a bit of work to find the marker pegs and then hand it to the right one. So didn't get a lot of space up the straight, but I was happy with that. And yeah, he's going in the right direction.
Any plan from here?
Probably a race at Addington here in 2 weeks. We'll go next.
Yeah, pretty happy with him. Obviously, only having the one trial coming in, probably needed that run, and you know he had a bit of a quiet one. We snuck in a good spot early and did a little bit to get round, not too much. Ended up with a nice run, and you could just sort of feel him blow out that last 100, 150. He wasn't far away, but I think he'll benefit a lot from that, and he'll be a different horse next time.
Well, BD Joe stepped well, but that was probably the end of that.
Yeah, no, he stepped well for Terry and was just in behind the leader, and you know the leader had put a couple of wrong ones in around the top end, and he was just on his outside and just in a squeezy position and copped a good check and went for a gallop, and then took too long to settle down. But Terry said he felt great, felt terrific, so he just looked after him after that, and yeah, so we'll head on to Ashburton from here.
The mare, well, she just got rough after stepping quite nicely.
Yeah, Tim said she was actually going to be close to leading. She went about 20 or 30 metres and then just rolled into it. Did a little bit of work to find the front after that and wasn't beaten far. So, look, still really happy with her. You know, only 12 or 13 start against those good ones. But, yeah, we'll talk to the owner. But she's going to go to a couple of mares races now anyway. The plan hasn't changed from there. Yep,
which was the plan all the way through. All-American Lover?
Yeah. Johnny said that she just felt fair today. Yeah, so just got a little bit of work to do with that one. So, yeah, we'll have to assess her during the week. But he said she just felt a bit plain.
All right, just back to BD Joe. Where do you go with him next?
Yeah, look, we'll just go to Ashburton with him next. Once you get to Ashburton, Terry said he felt terrific right from the start and even right through the run. So we'll go to Ashburton, and after he's had that run, that'll tell us whether we have to go to Kaikoura or a cup trial or even the race here 10 days before. So, you know, we feel we're pretty close to having him ready.
So, Michael, some really interesting comments there around where some of these horses are going. There's a few pathways for them. Methven's an option. That's on Sunday, of course, the Cup, although no Self-Assured, no Akuta going there from the nominations that we've seen so far, Michael. But a few of the others now. McAndrew Aviator's, you know, a great story. Stephen Boyd and the family now have to plan a pathway through to the Trotting Cup. But the Krug and Republican parties, sounds like Kaikoura's on their radar.
And a new driver is going to be needed for Republican Party, of course, because Blair is going to be driving Copy that, and Carter, I presume, will stick with Krug. Going back through them, obviously the winner was pretty good. We mentioned last week on the show, predominantly all the winners are coming from the lead or the passing lane this early in the season, and that continued again. Akuta was excellent. He looks to have come back bigger and stronger, and he was clearly the run of the race. He shortened enormously in the market for the New Zealand Cup. He's now way too short considering the depth of the Cup and the horses he's going to be taking on, but he was the run of the race. McAndrew Aviator's a great story. The New Zealand Cup needs those fairy tales. Fantastic to have him in there, and says a big tick to Stephen Boyd and to the connections for sending the horse north. Self-Assured looked like a horse who needed a run, maybe two, so he'll get better, but he'll need to. Mossdale Ben was good, really happy with him. Bark was good, I thought, after that little early gallop. They both suggested They're going to be horses who, in a New Zealand Cup or in other races, are going to be factors, Greg. And then you talk about a horse like Krug, well, you're willing to forgive him because he can be quite a tubby little fella who pids on, or who has a lot of weight on him, and then trims it off as he races more. Getting further back, Artie's Express, couldn't have her for the New Zealand Cup for mine. Nothing against the horse. I spoke to Steve Telfer last week. He said this was her chance to stand up. I don't think she did enough. So I don't think they need to rush her into a cup. She's a natural speed horse and there's plenty of other options for her. When you look at that field, Greg, and then you copy that, Old Town Road, maybe not too many others from the north, are the big two, and then the potential for a Swayze from Australia. We have an awful lot of moving parts to this New Zealand Cup. And by moving parts, I mean, we still know a BD Joe can win the New Zealand Cup. We now have, I think realistically, between 8 and 10 horses who could win the Cup without completely stunning everybody. We have the big 3 or 4, but I do think, Greg, it's one of the more open Cups in a long time because we don't have that dominant horse, seen by the fact that every open class race this season so far has been won by a different horse.
Yeah, exactly. Looking forward to this week, of course, the Holmes DG, the Kerry Hogarth Memorial Holmes DG. We'll get a bit more of a line on where copy that, and in particular Old Town Road at. Smithy's Terror was on the undercard and winning, Michael, back in form for him. Anything goes outside the leader, most expected to win this race, but his stocks for the Cup may have just dropped a little bit. Franco Indy, he charges home here. He just got a little bit far off Smithy's Terror, who was very brave. It was win number 10 for him. He got into the Cup last year, and when we have a look at the Meffin Cup later on in the program, we'll see him taking that out for Corbin Newman. So whilst he's an outsider for the IRT New Zealand Cup, at least he's back in winning form, and he had missed away in a couple of his runs which took him out of play, but he was simply too good, and he was about a second and a half behind the time set in the Canterbury Classic. So good to see Smithy's Terror back in form, and now he makes his way to that Meffin Cup. You spoke about Old Town Road before, Michael. Let's go and have a look at his most recent trial. That's him at the back of the field. This is last Friday, home in 56.8, 27.6. He runs past Whispering Artist, who we know is a very, very talented mare. So this is a good sign for Old Town Road, and he was given a strong hit out here.
Spoke to John Dickey last night about this. He said he does peak here in the last 100 metres. Like, Whispering Artist is a good horse, but she's not a New Zealand Cup winning horse yet. And she runs him pretty close. So he showed that dazzling speed. He did improve on the bend, which is harder to do, obviously. But he's going to need to be better than that to beat this field this week. Whispering Artist will be 10 metres in front of him. They were off the same line there. And copy that, of course, is going to be directly behind him. John said, be careful. He said, look, the horse had the paddock accident, just a small one with his hoof, and therefore he's come back really big, and he's happy with him. He hasn't lost any of his speed, but he is concerned about the fact that he can't be driven tough this week, and therefore there'll be no sweeping to the lead in the middle stages and beating them. So I'm wanting to park him this week as a betting option. I think copy that of 20 metres is better suited by the 2700. Ray Green told everybody who had listened the horse was podgy for its first up run, had no luck for its second up run. This is his chance, Greg. This is where he needs to stand up to regain some respect if he is able to lead the New Zealand Cup again, as he has been the last 2 years. Off the front, Fernley Cash, well, we know what they'll try and do there. He'll try and roll along. And Nicholas Cage is the other interesting one. He'll need to step better from the standing start to potentially be a factor. Just on Fernley Cash, I had a good conversation to Alicia Harrison this week, and she's decided to stick with Fernley Cash rather than participate in the Junior Drivers' Champs. Tough choice for her. She's made her choice. I think she went to Harness Race in New Zealand and said, look, both Crystal Hackett and I would like to be able to drive our open class drives in the North Island, but not drive it in Invercargill. I can see both sides of the story. I think it would be great that our young drivers can drive these good horses, but if we're going to have a Junior Drivers' Champs, it has to be on at some stage. and I'm not sure we can totally avoid all the other clashes. So I feel for her, but I understand the point that at some stage you've got to decide, as do most drivers, I presume, between I'm going there or I'm going there. Maybe in the future, the junior drivers' champs could be on other race day clear days. That might be something that can be looked at. Admittedly, it's probably not that bigger and all-encompassing problem for the entire industry. But yeah, interesting conversation around that last week.
And I spoke to Catherine McDonald about that, and the Junior Driver Series has moved around a wee bit too, Michael, but at the end of the day, I'd be disappointed if the connections of Fernley Cash didn't leave Alicia on if she missed this week's drive. So you've got to say to yourself, is a national championship more important? And she's decided that she wants to stick with the horse. That's her prerogative, that's fine.
And also, Greg, that the Junior Drivers' Champs has this mystique about it, which has gone on for decades, which is great, it's wonderful, but it doesn't actually mean anything. Without being horrible, like winning it is great, it's a bit of fun, but it's almost a little bit like winning the Ranfurly Shield. It doesn't mean you're the best team in New Zealand, it just means you had a good day.
Interesting topic at the moment, Michael,
Exactly.
given what's been going on with that piece of wood.
It doesn't mean you're the best driver in the country. I think all drivers' championship races.
I don't think Dexter won it, did he? I've got a feeling he didn't.
No,
So,
there
you go.
that would make, and with the World Drivers' Champs, a lot of the best drivers don't even go. So I understand how everybody wants to go, but I think it's actually more of a social occasion and something which is great for the interactions. But that was discussed over the last week or so, and look, I think maybe it's something we can look at in the future without being something which I have entirely strong views on, because it doesn't tend to be a case where often you have many junior drivers driving in our biggest races.
No. Right, let's continue on with the IRT New Zealand Cup. Need to have a look at the Kilmore Cup from last Friday night with a lead towards a Victoria Cup too. Act now in front doing it pretty nicely here. Better Eclipse gets the better of it. Widest out there's Rock and Roll Do, who is equal favourite for the Victoria Cup. Directly behind it is Loyalist, and unfortunately further back and battling up the straight was Kango, Michael. So I'm not really sure where his IRT New Zealand Cup campaign is at as he's making his way back to New Zealand, but it hasn't gone well for Arna Donnelly and the team there. But there's a horse we know well, Better Eclipse.
And again, horse coming out of the trail, winning a major race. It's not going to be all season like that, but early season leading and trailing is crucial, because horses aren't fit enough to come around, sit outside them and put pressure on. So forget Rock and Roll Do, he just got way too far back.
Was he disinterested, Michael, the horse, and maybe even Mick Stanley? Because they didn't seem to even want to be in the race in the first half of it.
He's a very strange horse, Rock and Roll Do. Very strange horse. He labours, he mucks around, he shows great acceleration. Other times he doesn't show any acceleration.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about him at all. I think he can still win the Victoria Cup, which is Saturday week. Better Eclipse, really good here in the autumn. That's him to a key. He's never going to win a major race with a difficult run, but he's going to be a factor in most of the major races as long as he can draw well. It's going to be a really interesting Victoria Cup, because no one knows where the Leap to Fame's turning up. Everybody wants to tell you he's not, and he's the hot favourite for the race, so my gut instinct is he won't turn up. And therefore it comes down to barrier draws, because he might be good enough to dominate most of them. The rest of them aren't, Greg. Kango just didn't work. Plenty of people have taken horses, gallopers, harness horses to Australia. Hasn't worked out for them, and they come home. Worth the gamble. It'll probably make him. Look at Republican Party last week. His unsuccessful trip to Menangle earlier this year, Greg, I think was the making of the horse, and I think the same for Krug the year before. So maybe we'll see a better version of Kango. In saying that, I do think the absolute best version of Kango is always up against the marker pegs. And it's a lot harder to get to the marker pegs in Australia, where they don't hand up, than it is in New Zealand, where they do.
Yep, absolutely it is. We mentioned the Kerry Hogarth, the Holmes DG. Let's just remind you of Fernley Cash's last start winning performance. Very good. Copy that coming wide. This is the Rising Foundation race night. Details around that foundation. They're getting right in behind all of the races outside of the feature on the night. They've got kids' carts there. They've also got the Christmas at the Races, the ATC, coming up a couple of times in November, 24th, 30th and the 8th and 15th of December. But Fernley Cash too strong there, and looking forward to seeing him take on this field in the 10th running of the Kerry Hogarth, the Holmes DG, part of the big night at Alexandra Park on Friday night. He's good, Fernley Cash, when he gets that opportunity like he did last time in the Spring Cup. Right, let's move on here to how the Dalgetties have been going, because they have been low flying, haven't they? So here is Coney Island Lou, who's 2 from 2 in this campaign, following Triple G there. To its outside, Don't Stop Dreaming. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. The other done runners, Who's Delight and Charlie Brown, both going terrific races. And we'll hear from Carter Dalgetty post-race just about how far this horse has come and what he thinks he can do in the future, because he believes he could be even more potent in a different position.
Coney Island Lou won it, beat Who's Delight, who got second. Photo third between Don't Stop Dreaming and Charlie Brown.
Well, he made a step last time. He's made an even bigger one tonight.
Yeah, he sure did. Last week or 2 weeks ago, he was first up for about 5.5 months, so I knew he would get better, and yeah, he did.
Tonight, you got into the perfect spot, but you're surrounded by good horses. Don't Stop Dreaming had only been beaten once. I know he had a hard run tonight, but it took an effort to run past him.
Yeah, absolutely, and we lost quite a lot of momentum on the turn, and it might not look much, but it actually affects him a lot. So for him to pick himself up and sprint as hard as he did, yeah, I was stoked.
He's going to have to go against them again. There's a Group 1 in a couple of weeks' time, but he deserves a shot now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, all he can do is win, I suppose, and I actually think he might be a little bit better when he's on the front, so he's a free-rolling horse, and hopefully we can win the Group 1.
He was good, Michael, but the horse just in behind him, Don't Stop Dreaming, was outstanding, and he deserves to be favourite going forward to that Air Park Canterbury Flying Stakes on the 13th.
He does. I think there's enough depth. We mentioned this on the show last week. None of these horses individually could beat Don't Stop Dreaming head-to-head. But put them all in the same place with a lot of gate speed, and you have horses who are good enough to use the passing lane to beat him. It's exactly what happened. This whole grade's going to step up a little bit when this horse turns up. Here's Merlin, very similar to the Old Town Road trial. Showed explosive speed to be launched to get around them, so clearly he's outside the leader here. He was really good to the line. He looks, when you look at him side on, looks nice and fit. He's relatively tucked up. He doesn't have a big round belly on him. And he clearly now goes into the Flying Stakes, which is on Friday week, against all those horses you just saw, fresh. Now that's a really, really big ask, because as we've mentioned, every good horse returning fresh so far this season has been beaten. But the bigger aim for him, of course, is the New Zealand Derby on December the 10th. On Coney Island Lou, he was a bit of a loony when he was a young horse, and he seems to be able to control that energy now. I agree with you on Don't Stop Dreaming, but I do think there's enough moving parts in this with gate speed, fit horses, stable mates, that if he has to sit parked in these big races, Greg, which often he's going to have to do, because if the All-Stars horses have one Achilles heel, and they've had it for a long time, they're not blazing gate speed horses. Some of them are, but most of their great horses in the last 10 years haven't been gate blazers. And if Don't Stop Dreaming becomes one of those horses and has to sit parked in a lot of these races, Greg, he's going to be far more vulnerable than if he's off the top end. Last season, when he was destroying horses, that was usually when he was in front. So, yep. Interesting dynamic to these 3-year-old races with Merlin about to join the party. Yeah, $1.60 the prize for Don't Stop Dreaming in the Flying Stakes. Merlin $3.20, Coney Island Lou $11, Sinbad Triple G $13, Ultimate Meteor $17. The IRT maiden winning performance of the week was Always Be Elite. Has already shown at the 2-year-old level is going to be very competitive. Got the front here, 2:42, excellent time, and he was very brave. Todd Mitchell in the bike in those blue colours. He finally picked up a couple of wins, so there's a couple of hundred from the box seat team dropping in to what ended up being over 30,000. So looking forward to seeing Always Be Elite. I love the way he goes. He's just got a floating action, and I can see him being competitive, particularly when he gets to follow a hot speed. Size Stakes heat this week at Addington Raceway, as we see him comfortably down to the line for Todd Mitchell, who I believe has been booked for that size final on Cup Day. Here's a heat for this week at Addington. Last week, Chase a Dream. Gee, it picked up well here. Michael charged up the lane. It looked like
Blair Orange was home with Major Hot, but this finish from about here from Chase a Dream, he looks like a horse that's going to develop, because from his Oamaru run to this, he's improved immensely.
Yeah, he was really good. Carter Dalgety was talking about losing momentum. Well, he lost plenty. And at the 200, you would have given him no chance. They don't often make up 2 lengths in the passing lane after losing momentum. Really happy to see some other horses getting involved, some different colours in the finish of a juvenile race. But when I spoke to Nathan Purdon at length last week about their team, we talked about this horse and that horse, and there was a general roll of the conversation. But the one horse who stopped the conversation was Vessem. He said to me, of all the horses we've got, it's the horse who's improved the most. He said, we were really stoked with how it trialled against Millwood Nike, and he said, it's gone to the next level. So if you're looking for some futures bets for some of those 2-year-old races coming up, I've never been a great believer in Vessem, Greg. I've always thought maybe a better horse would come along. And maybe Lee Major is a better horse, I don't know. But when Nathan said that to me last week, he said it with real conviction.
Yep.
So maybe we're going to see Vessem go to an even better level, which is sort of funny thing to say because he's unbeaten so far anyway.
Yeah, 6 from 6 he is. All right, time for us to go to a break. As we do, caught up with Olivia Thornley at the trials last week to talk about No Matter What and her retirement, and also what it meant to her to win the DG Jones Banks Peninsula Cup with Oscar Bonavina.
Olivia, news coming out during the week that your favourite, No Matter What, she's been retired. Tell me what she's meant to you.
Yeah, well, to be fair, she's every junior's dream. Not many get to drive a horse at Group 1 level, and for both of us to get our maiden wins, it was something I'll never forget, especially when she was only qualified that same season, so in one effort she did a hell of a run.
All right. Tell us what her problems have been, because she's had issues all the way through, and anyone who's watched her race knows that her gait at times can, well, get a little bit rank.
Yeah, like, to be fair, at the races we always knew something was going to happen and that was fine, but she just started doing it around home and we knew that wasn't her, and just getting more vet work done, it was just getting to the stage where we couldn't take anything else off, and for the best interest of the horse we had to retire her.
Yeah, well, it's been a tough week for BD West, hasn't it? Brian West and his stud-owned bloodstock, because Paramount Empress has been retired as well, but oh my goodness, are those two worth a little bit of money just quietly?
Oh, definitely. What they did for Brian's amazing, and obviously they were both being aimed at the Cup and the Dominion, so it's a bit of a loss for Brian and all of us concerned, but it was just the best foot forward for them.
All right, on a positive note, Oscar Bonavina got you a feature race win in the DG Jones at Mota Carrara. How cool was that? And also, it was your 50th career win.
Yeah, no, it was very special. Get a Group 3 at your 50th, especially as a junior, like, it's a really special achievement, and I'm just wrapped that I was able to drive Oscar and we got the business done.
Yeah, well, he ended up in a beautiful spot and showed his customary speed. He needed to, though, because Resolve got a little bit close as the winning post was coming up.
Yeah, to be fair, with the speed he has, when I pulled out, he just got to the lead so quickly, he actually switched off, and then when Resolve came up the inside, he just found another gear and he never laid down, and I didn't think he was going to get back.
Do you feel, or does he feel like, and is Mark and Nathan suggesting to you that he might be somewhere back to near his best, and he has had his issues as well?
Yeah, he definitely has had problems, but this prep so far has been pretty much faultless for him, and he's been in a really good headspace, so all things look positive.
Trials have been good, and he looks pretty full.
What a grub. What a grub.
Yeah. That was Blair Orange being a total grub there. Lucky it's only Addington News and not the national news, but anyway.
Doing a wee piece there, Michael, with Nathan Purdon, and yes, that Blair Orange just showing that you can have a bit of fun around the racetrack, particularly at the trials, and whilst the camera didn't go down any lower, Michael, it's probably just as well that it didn't.
Might have increased Nathan's fan club. Nathan Purdon After Dark, the new website. But it is good to see the boys and girls having some fun. After all, for us, it is a business, so it is for them. But If you can't have fun at work, I suppose you probably wouldn't want to go. Admittedly, we do not condone that sort of behaviour at work. Do not try that in your workplace, and I'm going to move on from that conversation before it gets any more difficult.
Beautiful. Let's move to Muscle Mountain and back in winning form at Addington Raceway. This in the Paul Renwick joinery. Have a look at him here. When he is able to be held up and unleashed, he is capable of producing these types of performances. Majestic Man running on nicely, Artie by the hill. 57.728 coming wide on the track. A terrific performance from him. So let's hear from his regular pilot, Ben Hope.
Again, Muscle Mountain by 2. Beat Majestic Man and Artie by the hill.
I reckon you were smiling at the 800 because you were able to drive him for his speed tonight.
Absolutely, Greg. No, he's I haven't driven him for his speed many times, but he showed that he's got that elusive speed. So yeah, I was really impressed with him.
Look, he's picked them up really nicely. Is his next step, what is it? Canterbury Park in a couple of weeks, one would think.
Yeah, it sounds like Canterbury Park and then the Ashburton Trot and then probably the Cup Trials and then the Dominion.
He was pretty awesome, wasn't he? Muscle Mountain. He is the favourite for the Renwick Farms Dominion. He's $1.70 in that market. $3.50 for Bolt for Brilliance. Artie by the Hill at around $9. We got David Branch on the show a couple of weeks ago to talk about the potential for a trot slot race. He mentioned they might have a sponsor. They have, the TAB, and that is Entain Australasian wide, getting in behind that along with their brand, the TAB. So let's hear from David around where that's at, and it's all pretty positive.
David, a couple of weeks ago on the show, we announced that you were looking for some expressions of interest for a trot slot race. How have you gone?
Yeah, we've had really good feedback. There's been a lot of interest there from a lot of owners of the good trotters, but also from some outside parties as well who are interested. So yeah, we're all go, and we're going to flip the switch, and it's providing we get the actual applications through, it'll be happening in April next year.
All right, so what's the process from here? How do we get this over the line?
Yeah, so now we'll from tomorrow we'll open the formal application process, if you like. So anyone that's applied for an expression of interest, we'll send them the official paperwork. They're quite hefty documents to go through this with all the details, the terms and conditions. They'll have a look through there, and then there's a formal application process that we'll go through as well to, I guess, to find that's got all the workings in there. If we get what happens if we get more than 10 applicants. If we get either 8 or 9 applicants, we will still run the race, but we'll look to reduce the stake back by those slot holder contributions. And if we end up that something happens and we don't get the 8, which we're pretty confident we do, well, then the race probably won't go ahead as well.
All right, so if you have the 10 slots, they're $50,000 each. If anyone's out there who's interested, they need to contact you clearly. And the conditions of the trot slot are the same as the race by grins. And while we're talking about that, I understand you already have a sponsor.
Yeah, so we're super excited to have TAB backing the trot slot concept right from the outset. So yeah, it's with their help that we're able to get this race off the ground, and having them in behind us is huge. So yeah, we're excited to have them on board, and looking forward to seeing it all come together.
All right, so for anyone who wants further information, either contact you or go on the website. It's the best way to go.
Yeah, for sure. Just my email's dave@cambridgeraceway.co.nz. Just drop me an email or call the club here, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible, and we'll get all the information and go from there.
All right, those final applications will close. You've got a closing date for those?
Yeah, the 18th of October, and then we'll be looking to do the slot holder announcement the following week, so the 24th of October, and locking those in, and yeah, going from there.
It's just adding to what you've already been able to achieve with the race by grins, and now this must make you and your team very excited.
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's the next evolution in the Night of Champions. It's going to help us to really live up to that name, and yeah, hopefully it's only the start of something that's going to continue to grow and grow as well, and just make that night bigger and better.
And the expressions so far haven't been just restricted to New Zealanders. I understand there's definitely some Australian interest.
Yeah, for sure, definitely Australian interest. So, I mean, a lot of water to go under the bridge between now and then, but the horses that are being talked about would be, yeah, one of the best trotting clashes I think we would have seen this part of the world for a long time. So fingers crossed, all the horses get through the next few months okay, and everything works out. And yeah, it'll be a night to remember for sure.
All right, well, we'll wait with great interest as to how that all unfolds. Be remiss of me before I let you go. You've got quite a handy horse for the Sire Stakes final on IRT New Zealand Cup Day, Lee Major. He's a serious bugger, isn't he?
Yeah, got just a very small share in him, but yeah, super exciting and very cool to have one racing on Cup Day in the Sire Stakes final, and a good chance as well, which is, yeah, super exciting.
All right, we'll look forward to seeing you down here for that, and keep up to date with everything around the Trot slot. Thanks for your time.
Awesome, thank you.
So, Michael, great news there from David Branch. The Tab getting right in behind it. They've opened a market too. $2.50 the price for Muscle Mountain. Bolt for Brilliance, Queen Elida and Just Believe at $3.80. Olivici, who won last week and is one of the favourites for the Inter Dominion, $6.50. Oscar Bonavina 13s. Artie by the Hill $15, along with Love in the Port. That market aside, how positive is the news around the Legends Night, or Champions Night, going to another level on the 12th of April?
Well, if somebody told you randomly that there was going to be a $655,000 trot, it's a strange number, but it's a cool number, which is now confirmed, was going to just turn up on the middle of April at Cambridge. Someone told you that 5 years ago, you'd think they were nuts. I mean, this is the richest trotting race ever held in the Southern Hemisphere. Now, there will be people, because there always is, this is harness racing, so there's always people upset about stuff who say, well, it's all slot money and blah, blah, blah. I think the TRB's putting 100K into it. But it doesn't really matter where the money comes from. The public who go along to watch this race, the people who read HRNZ and watch the show and read the Herald and bet on it out of Australia, they don't care where the money's coming from. They just know there's going to be a $655,000 trotting race, which should get Muscle Mountain, Bolt for Brilliance. You would think Just Believe. Why wouldn't they come? They went to Sweden last year for a race they couldn't win, which is worth as much as this. And Aldebaran Zeus. I think he's a certainty because I think his people are going to buy a slot, Greg. So it's a wonderful thing. And all of a sudden, the biggest night in Australasian harness racing will be this sitting alongside the Eureka. The Eureka's a big night, don't get me wrong. I was there, it's huge. But this will be one of the few times we have genuinely massive trotting races alongside massive pacing races outside the Inter Dominion. I think it's wonderful. It's great, and I think there's nothing bad about it. Yes, the money, people would say 50,000 is a lot for a slot, but if you play it correctly, and we went through all this last year, you can get half your money back, and you can also claim your money you're putting into it against your business as a marketing expense, which means technically the government's helping out a little bit. So,
yeah, terrific. Speaking of helping out,
it's a good thing, Gregory. It's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Speaking of helping out in the trotting game, no one's helped more Australasian-wide than this man, Duncan McPherson, who I got a chance to chat to earlier in the week, covering a whole lot of aspects, including his recent sojourn around the world with his trotter, Aldebaran Zeus.
Well, it's a pleasure to be joined on the box seat by Duncan McPherson. Well, I'm going to call you Mr. Trotting in Australia because there's no one with a greater passion for the square gators than you, mate. Thanks for coming on the box seat.
And Greg, thanks for having us, and welcome to everybody in New Zealand.
Aldebaran Park. Wow, haven't you just been on the journey of a lifetime? The $1 Million Yonkers Trot. You took Aldebaran Zeus, who we got to see at Cambridge, on a mission, and he certainly didn't disappoint, Duncan.
No, it was a big effort, and as you said, the Cambridge was one of the stepping stones, and we, the hospitality, and we thankful for the opportunity to go to Cambridge. And I guess when you look back at the performances that he was running, we did the Bendigo Maori Mile, which is up there behind us, and he led from a wide gate and managed to hold on in that race. And then obviously the next two we did were both the Hammerhead Mile in Sydney when we went 52 and 6, and fortunately held Just Believe, which then pretty much gave us some credentials after Just Believe's wonderful performances over in Europe. And then yes, obviously we went to Cambridge. So I guess those three races helped secure a position internationally, and the rest was history, as they say. But we had a plan for a while, and the Maori Mile, which we've sponsored since its inception at Bendigo, has always been a stepping stone international opportunity, and sparkling success proved that a few years ago, and unfortunately he was injured and couldn't get there. But to be the first horse to go to Yonkers since Scotch Notch in 1986 was, or 85 or 86 was pretty special indeed.
Yeah, I know you'll see it as a privilege, and I'm hearing there might be a trot slot race at Cambridge, and given that you've already bought the horse for the mile there on the Grins, the Race by Grins race night, that's something that would heighten your interest on picking?
Yes, look, I mean, I got a snippet of the information that was coming across, and Brentley was all over it, which was great for us and great for Brent's team. But yeah, I've rung David Branch and had a discussion with him, and yes, from an Australian perspective, I think it would be, it's fortuitous to have an opportunity to come to a slot race, and I've expressed interest, and hopefully in the next few weeks we can materialise that. But look, great opportunity for Southern Hemispherical trotting to put itself again back up on the world stage. And when you think of the horses, the calibre of the horses that could get there, you've got Muscle Mountain, and you've got the other Oscar Bonavina, and a group of other horses over there that are up there. And if you could attract a few Australian horses to sprinkle in that field at Cambridge going our way round, then sparks would be flying, and I think it'd be an absolutely wonderful evening. And having experienced it last year, it was a great evening. Grins night was a wonderful night, and the opportunity to come back and have a crack at a good race would definitely whet the appetite.
Yep, well, we'll certainly see if that materialises, and the positivity coming from David Branch and the team, the indications are that we will get there. Hey, while I've got you here, might as well talk about this new stallion of yours, Dancing in the Dark. I think it's the 4th fastest stallion of all time. He's clearly very, very quick, and you're pretty pleased to have him in your stable, if you like.
Yeah, we have a relationship with Mannheimer Stateria up in Sweden, where Maori Time is actually domiciled, and she's been in-foal to Redley Express. And ironically, Dancing in the Dark is by Redley Express, who is a wonderful Group 1 winning horse and a son of Reddy Cash up in Europe. And Dancing in the Dark raced in the US, and unfortunately had an injury which curtailed his career. But you're 100% correct. He was the fastest trotting stallion in the world, and the 4th fastest of all time in 2021, going 49-3. And with the relationship we have with Mannheimer, they rang us, and they've got mares and foals down at Aldebaran Park, and they said, would you be interested in standing one of the fastest horses of all time? And when we looked back in his pedigree and saw Game Pride sitting as the 5th down, we thought, well, there's a big New Zealand interest there genetically, and we took the opportunity to bring him down. So he arrived late October last year, which is why we didn't have him available in New Zealand early days last season. We wanted to get him settled and make sure that he was all okay. So he served a bit over more than 40 mares in a limited period of time over there, but he's definitely got interest in Australia this year, and we're looking forward to his first progeny hitting the ground. And I spoke to Mannheimer, and they were more than happy for us to include New Zealand on his roster this year. And I just think it's a wonderful opportunity to have fresh semen collected Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, sent across with all the other semen that flies. And it's a new genetic for Southern Hemispherical trotting, and particularly in New Zealand, where everyone's screaming for fresh stallions. So I hope that people understand who Dancing in the Dark is. His details are on our website at www.aldebaranpark.com, and we're taking up some sponsorship opportunities over in New Zealand, not only to impregnate the market over there as far as Aldebaran Park goes, but to also make sure that Dancing in the Dark is well known over there.
Yep, 4,000 plus GST, fresh semen, as you mentioned. And you're here to announce today, Addington Raceway. Well, you're sponsoring the Oaks down south, which is fantastic, yes. But you're getting behind one of our very best races, a key lead up to the Renwick Farms Dominion. It is the Canterbury Park Cup, won by horses like Sunday Sun and Muscle Mountain in recent times. So, yeah, great to have you on board with that race only in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I mean, I sponsored trotting races from Port Pirie to anywhere there's a trotting race. Basically, if it's a phone call away and someone rings me, more than happy. We do a lot of stallion tenders over here in Victoria and South Australia and New South Wales. And so, yes, I'm more than happy to support big trotting races. And obviously, we haven't ventured into New Zealand before, but We've raced in New Zealand for a long time. We've bred on the Canterbury Plains for many years and had a great relationship with Tall Tree Stud and Ken Spicer at Rosedale, who prepares our yearlings. And so I guess the next step, when you've got a global stallion in your midst with an opportunity for New Zealand breeders, then it would be remiss not to be putting something back into the marketplace over in New Zealand.
No, we really appreciate it. Great to see what Aldebaran Zeus has been able to achieve. Looking forward to him coming back over potentially for the Trot slot race. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you over here again soon.
Greg, thanks very much for the opportunity. And we're hot to trot at Aldebaran Park. We're fresh as best.
So great to catch up with Duncan McPherson from Aldebaran Park. Dancing in the Dark, Michael, a very, very good trotter available to breeders down under. He's sponsoring the Southland Trotting Oaks this week, sponsoring the Canterbury Park Cup. He puts his money where his mouth is, and if you book on Friday the 13th, the race that he sponsored at Addington Raceway, you get a 15% discount, which, Michael, on $4,000 is $600. So if you want to book on the day, then you get that. So he's a very, very fine prospect as a stallion, I think, that horse, and great to have Duncan getting behind the New Zealand side of the business.
Yeah, and Duncan and those trotting zealots who love trotting horses, they'll be the reason this slot race will be successful. It's going to be very strong. And also you talk about a horse like Just Believe potentially coming. Of course, that camp also have Better Eclipse. Really easy to bring two horses rather than just one. A Queen Elida, I'm very sure they'll be looking for a slot with her. So that might be slightly different from the other slot race. I think owners of the best trotters may buy in year by year, but of course you can do that. And if your horse doesn't come up, you can go find another horse for that slot. So well done to David Branch. Takes a lot of work. This was a big gamble. He put the expressions of interest out there. And Greg, they have got enough of those to make this a real thing.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing the progress over the next couple of weeks with regards to that. Let's go to Cambridge and see the performance of Mantra Blue. That's her widest out, swooping down the outside. Got a chance to chat to Zach Butcher at Addington on Friday night to reflect on this, but she's 3 from 3 now, 28-4 the last quarter. She exploded up the straight, so where is her bottom? We're not sure at the moment.
Poleaxed at the 1,500 metres. She's picked herself up, found her rhythm, and she has won brilliantly. Mantra Blue.
Well, we thought after her last run she was serious, and now we know.
Yeah, she stepped up again, which is great. She sort of doesn't seem to work spectacular at home, so you're always going and wondering, you know, what's going to happen. But yeah, she definitely showed up.
What about the first part of the race? Were you watching?
No. Well, you got to call me out on that for, Gregory. Yeah, I was looking inside. We were trying to look for a little bit of a spot and just, you know, seeing what the others were doing. And before I knew it, I was running straight up the bum of the other horse. So she handled it really well. A lot of horses would jump out of it. She's in quite a long hobble, and she just keeps stepping through those strides. We got around that trouble, and yeah, the rest was pretty easy after that.
It's surprising, but it's not surprising what she's showing on race day. You've got this one stumbling block, the unbeaten Millwood Nike, but you look like you've got the game to at least go with her.
Well, 100%. You know, I've seen Millwood Nike go around. She's got real speed, and you know, where our filly's probably more of a stayer, and she'll follow speed. So in that sense, she's going to be hard to beat every day of the week. But if you're not in these races, you know, you can't win. And if the draw goes our way and the run goes our way, why not? You know, we're all here, we're dreamers, and it'd be great to get that sort of win for Lynette.
And the plan still is to get down, get to Ashburton, and then roll towards the big dance.
Well, you wouldn't believe it, Greg, but they won't let me start in that Neville Ahag.
Because you've won 2.
Yeah, fancy that. So no, we'll have to miss that. We'll have to come up with another plan now, but still want to get her down here and settle her in. And yep, we'll roll on to Cup Day, which is the most exciting day of the year, and I can't wait for it. And after that, we'll aim for the Oaks, and yeah, hopefully she just keeps stepping up.
Yeah, well, you just got square for me querying your drive in the early part, because I didn't know that she'd won 2 heats, so nice work.
I'll take that.
He's a good bit of humour, isn't he, Michael? But I tell you what, he's got a serious racehorse, hasn't he?
Yeah, she's very good, very fast, and I think she has a chance against Millwood Nike if she gets the right sort of run. I don't think the rest of this crop can beat Millwood Nike on what I'm seeing. Millwood Nike's very good, though. This is the trial for her last week, and look, Greg, she's up against Vesem here, so we know how good she is, covers the ground beautifully. There's no reason to think that she's come back any worse, I would presume. So this isn't the Vesem trial, this is obviously a different trial, but yeah, Very good, Greg. And she's back
That
this
is the
week.
Vessam trial.
Oh,
Yes, it is the
was
Vessam
Vessam
trial
in
that was
different
in the
colours there?
yeah Blair Orange driving. It was
Oh.
quite wet, so he was driving in
you
his
go.
wet weather colours of Tolliman Lodge. But yes, you're absolutely right, Michael.
Trick for young players. Just on Mantra Blue, yeah, she won 2 heats, and I agree with the rule. You shouldn't be allowed to start in 3 heats, and they never are if you keep winning them, because otherwise one horse could win all the heats and around the whole country if it wanted to keep travelling. And go into the final and dominate the entire thing. So there is a race at Addington about on the Friday meeting before the Cup.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a race there. I think
There's
it's
a fillies and mares race up to
up
60.
to 60.
And,
yeah.
and she's a 58. So
Yeah, so she'll slot on beautifully to that. So there's no concerns there for him. And what I'm hearing from everybody I'm talking to, Greg, is these flights, which have become a real thing, Auckland to Christchurch, huge.
Yep.
Everybody's so
They start
much
next
happier.
Tuesday, Michael.
And I tell you who's on it next Tuesday, Bolt for Brilliance. So forget all the other ones because we knew they were going. Copy that. But Bolt for Brilliance, we didn't know. If he races well this Friday, he'll go down and take on Muscle Mountain next Friday at Addington. Now that is the enormous breath of air the open class trotting ranks needed. Everybody I speak to, Greg, in both codes are like, this is so good to have these flights back. Huge win for Addington and Riccarton. Huge. And it's going to roll on for the rest of the season down to Otago and the innovation races for the gallops and all the harness racing that comes up all year round. So congratulations to those people who put all that hard work into getting that off the ground. Excuse the pun.
Yeah, IRT, of course, a huge supporter of the show and the sponsors of the great race. Last week we mentioned on the show the discussion around talking on the track, the drivers. So I caught up with Catherine McDonald to get some clarification around that. Catherine, there was some correspondence recently received by the trainers and drivers, or to the trainers and drivers, around having drivers, I suppose, discontinue, for want of a better term, the chat out on the track. Can you give us some context around how this came about?
Well, it started about 12, 18 months ago. We were approached by some professional trainers who didn't think it was a good look for our drivers to be out there talking on track pre-race. They felt that the perception to the punter was not a good look. So we looked at a rule change last year. It didn't get off the ground. It failed to get passed. But it was brought to our attention again recently that it was an issue. So we discussed it with the trainers and drivers. And there was some different reasons for it. Some of it was, again, around the perception, and two, just some of the, I believe, juniors feeling that they were being spoken to not properly on track by some of the senior drivers. And we just felt that it was time to have a discussion with the Trainers and Drivers Association. Neither the RIB or Harness Racing New Zealand want to bring in a rule around it. You know, we really don't. We just feel that in today's age, when we're out there wanting to put out a professional product to the punter and to our new customers, that we need to look professional. We need our people, when they go out on the track, to think they're there for the owner of the horse and the horse to do their best, concentrate on that, have a laugh after the race, but not before the race and when you're out there doing it. Other professional sports people do it. We just felt it should be done.
So post-race, it's not an issue?
No.
No. You want to see the joy and you want to see them celebrate. And if they're doing that with their mates, then there's no drama there. And I guess the other part of that is the safety element. If they need to speak to someone because their horse is about to bang into them, clearly that's acceptable. But that's not why you're doing this.
No, it's not why we're doing it. The safety element is acceptable. And if you're going around at the start and somebody's, shin boots slip down, you point it out to them. That's just all being proper sportsmen and doing the right thing. It's really about the image we project out there pre-race. And it's like any other sports. When they go out there, they're concentrating on what they're doing. Afterwards, they give each other hugs, they have a slap on the shoulder and commiserate with each other if one side beats the other, but it's just the image we portray.
So what's the process from here? Is it something you and the RIB just keep an eye on and hopefully it sort of peters out, if you like? Is that what you're hoping will happen?
I'm hoping it will happen like that. I don't want to bring in a rule. I believe there is a rule in Australia, and there's no rule, I don't think, around thoroughbreds at the moment, but you seldom see jockeys talk before a race. The Trainers and Drivers Association understand the issue, and by sending out that newsletter last week to them, asking them to think about it themselves, let's not worry about a rule ever coming in. Let's just us take our own ownership of the problem and just try and present a better image.
So quite clearly there, Harness Racing New Zealand not really looking to bring in a rule, although they tried to do that the previous year anyway. What about our competition with our good friends from Entain at the TAB? You want to come to Harness Grand Prix Day. We got about 100 entries last week, so it's proven pretty popular. The prize could be up to $5,000 depending on where you have to travel from. Put your entries via email, boxseatnz@gmail.com. 1 entry per person per week. The question for this week: how many horses have won the IRT New Zealand Cup 3 times? So pretty easy for you. Send your results, your entries in to us at the box seat email there. What was Mum like, Wanda, watching that race? And have you talked to her about that? Because I know she's not a good watcher of the races, is she?
No, we tried to actually get her down for the day and she said there was no chance.
No chance.
No chance. And I actually haven't asked her whether she even watched it or she watched the replay of it. But yeah, I think she does get a little bit nervous, but you know, deep down she loves it. She loves seeing us out there competing, and there was no love lost, that's for sure. I was doing my best to beat them, and I think I did beat both of them. Yeah, it was, it was
I
a
think
nice
you're about 6, but you did beat them home, so I suppose that was a claim to fame. So that's the final program in the series of One-on-One with Zachary Butcher. Hope you've been enjoying those. What about the opportunity for a tender to Sweet Lou? This is courtesy of the Auckland Trotting Club. Send in your tenders to karen.blanchard@alexandrapark.nz. It closes on the 19th of October. He's absolutely low-flying, Sweet Lou. So get your tenders in for that. So let's have a look at Addington for Thursday night and roll into, this was a good performance from Melody Banner. That's her in front. She was able to hold off a late charge from Madrid. She goes round in a Dunstan size heat. Of course, that final is run on show day. She was pretty brave here, 28.6 after working to get the lead in the Stonewall colours with Tim Williams. Yeah, I think she'll be very competitive. Pre-barrier draw for that heat on Thursday night, but she's a smarty. Madrid might be the big improver out of it though. Just lost contact with her around the bend and straightened up and really hit the line strongly, so plenty of improvement there. What about the Woodland Size Stakes heat? Here is Renegade getting wider on the track and really hitting the line strongly for the Brendan Hill team. He's big, he's strong, he's got a lot of scope. He gets his chance in the heat on Thursday night, and judging on this performance, there's natural improvement in him as well, so you'd expect him to bounce off this pretty well and be very competitive, but he does have to take on the likes of the unbeaten Vesem. Here's last year's Methven Cup, Corbin Newman getting the job done, getting the lead here with Smithy's Terror. Of course, he won last week at Addington Raceway. He gets a chance to go back-to-back in a race that's been run for about 95 or 96 years, the Methven Cup. So, yeah, good luck to the connections of Smithy's Terror in going back-to-back in that feature. So some awesome racing coming up over the next few days. Throw in Alexandra Park, plus the Macmillan Equine Feeds Junior Drivers Championship, which all kicks off at Addington on Thursday night, and it's going to be a week well worth watching. The map we need around this great nation, because we've got terrific racing on Thursday night, Addington Raceway. 10 races starting at 5:16, including those heats of the Neville and the Dunstan 2-year-old Vesems there. Looking forward to that. Dancing in the Dark Southern Trotting Oaks, 10 races there Friday afternoon, 2:10 the start time. Alexandra Park, where it is the Kerry Hogarth, the Holmes DG, obviously Bolt for Brilliance there as well. 5:49 the start time from there. And the big day at Methven, the Alabar Methven Cup for $40,000. Smithy's Terror with a chance to win that again, and the What the Hill Trotters Classic 2. Congratulations, Michael, to HRNZ, $30,000 Blue September. They got over that mark, so it's been a big month for them, and a big thank you to you for your input into the show today.
It's been fun, Greg. Things are getting really hot now. Looking forward to seeing Millwood Nike back, but my favourite Bolt for Brilliance is back on Friday night. Looking forward to getting to Alexandra Park and seeing him.
All right, appreciate your time, and we will both see you in 7 days. The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Harness Link, for all your worldwide harness racing coverage. Brecken Farms, New Zealand Bloodstock Standard Bred. IRT, it's your horse and our passion, Garrard's Horse and Hound, Lincoln Farms, Renwick Farms, Harness Racing New Zealand, the clubs, Auckland, Cambridge, Addington and Ashburton, and the TAB.